Welcome back to another Supercoach video. My name is Jackson and you are joining me for the Week 9, Round 9 score review. Another average so-so week for me, where I continue to league points as I have been doing the last few rounds and are now sitting just outside the top 1k. Unfortunately, I had to deal with the pain of Tex this week and getting rid of him, which was a couple of weeks too late. But, thankfully, we'll jump into the team, traded him to Hall, which is great. That did very well. And I got Poulter this week as well. I'd gone early on RCD, so I got both the rookies, got Hall. That's all good. And I think I'm probably a week or two off, probably hitting my low point for the season, and then being able to turn around. Like Bo's hurt this week. Merritt dropped a dud as well, which hurt. But overall, I'm getting to the point now where I don't have too many bad or fake premiums, I don't think. Bo's is probably the one that stands out the most. And I'm almost at the point now where I'm getting the bad rookie scores off field. I'm not copying 20s and 30s as I was before. So once those things kind of correct out, I feel like I'm in an okay position to attack the second half of the year. Still got enough trades. I've got enough cash gen. I feel like I've got, Poulter, RCD, and then Berry and Rowe have started making a little bit of extra money. McNeil's still going well. Obviously, it hurts getting rid of Jordan and Scott early, but we'll jump into all this and more, hoping to cover, my trade targets, who you should be looking at for the tradings this week, who I think is probably the best option as well as the best cheap option on each line. And then talking about what we do with Bose and Marshall if you have them. Let's jump into it. So just going line by line quickly, in the defenders, Laird had a great game. I think there's not really too much to talk about. Cozzy's continuing to make money. He's at his peak now. So if you were looking to upgrade to someone in defense, he's someone you could get rid of this week comfortably. I'd love to be able to downgrade him potentially, but there's just really no rookie options. Highmore coming back was a great little surprise, a great little treat, but didn't play or score particularly well. So fingers crossed he holds his spot this week. But against the Dogs, I don't even really want to play him on field. And then Murphy will hopefully be back from his concussion, which I do need because the current plan for me is to hold Bose, but we'll jump into that in a little bit. Lloyd's continued to score well and consistently without punishing people. Short was a little bit disappointing because he looked like he could have gone 110, 120 and really given a good return this week, and it just didn't happen. And Ridley was great for Essendon today, played really well. And once again, I think we're starting to see what his scoring will look like for the rest of the year, which is still will score that 105 to 110 range, potentially at a max. But with Heppel being an alternative route out of defence and Redmond taking kick-ins, we're just not going to see that 130 average that we had for the first half of the year, or the first 4 or 5 games of the year, which is a bit of a shame. In the midfield, the Dogs mids continue to dominate, and picking up Bont a few weeks ago, he's probably averaged 130, 140 for me since then, so really pleased with that. McRae's kind of kept on. It's actually interesting. His scoring seems to have dropped off a little bit since Dunkley's been out of the side, which may just be coincidence, but something to keep in the back of our heads for next year. Oliver had a best on game performance for a 140, and Walsh continues to score well even in losses. Love having Walsh. I think he's someone that's just going to score super consistently to the back end of the year. Merritt, as mentioned, got tagged really hard today and was once again getting sniped behind the ball, which as a Bombers fan you don't like to see it. But just dropped the 64 and looked like coming into halfway through the third that he was still going to ton anyway, and just didn't get there. So hopefully this isn't a trend, because this is going to be quite bad. But for non-owners, you would be loving this. He is going to get down to, I think, low 500s, just after his buy. So it's if you don't have him, he's a great last midfield upgrade target. Brayshaw had a bounce back game this week, a nice 126, and given we got him at that cheap price in the mid 400s, absolutely loving that. Powell is with his 45. He's actually one that is ready to go this week. Interestingly, I wanted to hold Powell through the buys, especially given that finding players that had that first buy was quite difficult. So someone like Powell, who was scoring 70s, 80s, I was really interested in holding, but he's dropped the 45 and now has a break even in the low 100s. So he is someone that can actually go this week, which is a little bit of a shame. I was hoping to hold him for longer, but I can do some great things with his money. RCD with a big 88 this week, and I attended the most centre bounces of any Richmond midfielder, which is great signs. And this game was a little bit worrying. He started off quite slowly in quarters 1 and 2, looked a little bit fumbly. He was winning some of the ball, but just couldn't hit a target. And then in the second half, he kind of came alive, especially when the game was online, cleaned up his disposals, kicked some goals, was really important for them actually in the second half and getting over the line. So hopefully that spells good things to come for RCD. And it was also great to see that Ross got dropped before him, actually. That does speak to him and maybe having some job security over the next 2 to 3 weeks. One of the questions I'm sure will get asked this week is whether or not we should bring in RCD at 182k. And it's a tricky one to answer. I mean, there's no other rookie downgrade targets this week. So if you are looking for a 1-up, 1-down and RCD is your best option, then you probably can do it. I just think the hard thing is it's really difficult to see him making an extra 150k here before his bye. It's definitely possible, but there's a good chance that he only makes you 50k. And, you know, if that happens, then what? We've seen it with Chapman, for example, where I think people traded him in after his first price rise and that didn't really work out. And I'm sure there's been other examples that aren't coming to me. So I'm not a huge fan of going for a rookie after their first price rise, but I guess the good thing with RCD is that 88 is going to be in his rolling average, which means you should get a pretty safe 80k out of him with upside on that. And he does have, it appears to be job security for a few more rounds, but there is risk with doing him as a downgrade in the sense that he could get dropped in 2 weeks and only make an extra 50, 60k, and that's just a really bad, dead rookie pick. The mid that I don't have that is worth talking about is Jordan, who has killed me. I can't believe he dropped a 40, a 20, and then has averaged 85 over 5 rounds since. He's going to get to 400k by his bye. You absolutely hold him. He is like killing it. Oh, Jesus, that really hurts. So on the bench, McNeil, not the best score, but I think he still has a low break even, and Scott still has a low break even as well, the other Dogs rookie, so you can hold both of those and get a little bit of extra cash out of them. I'd hope McNeil gets to maybe 280 by his bye, but he's probably not far off peaking. Berry put in an alright score today, so he's kind of lowered his break even, can be held for a little bit longer. And McRae, I didn't even check the VFL this week to see how he played. I presume it was good because he's always crushed the VFL. Be an interesting question to see whether or not he gets a call up this week. In the Rucks, actually it's a somewhat disappointing week, just 109, 117. Lofty standards we have for Grundy and Gawn, and they kind of just did average. Having the captaincy on Gawn and seeing him at like 37 at the half or something like that was scary. So he put in a big effort to kind of recover his score, which is great. And then Flynn got a game, and when he gets a game, he scores big. So he is at the point now where if you need to trade someone out for money, you can trade Flynn out. I know some people have, for example, Comben on their forward bench that they want to hide. You can do it this week if he gets dropped. The good news is that with Thursday teams back this week, yes, we'll actually find out, hopefully on the Thursday, whether or not he's going to get dropped. Although maybe not, because he's going to be emergency anyway. But Mumford will get named. Would he? Maybe Mumford. Okay, that could be tricky. But Flynn is someone that if he gets another couple of games before his bye, he could make another 60k, possibly. He could, get up close to 400k, which would be huge, given his average and how he's been scoring. And there'd be extra benefit if you're able to hold him through to the round 14 bye when Gawn and Grundy are both out and you played Flynn. But, stars have to align. He has to be named for GWS. You still have to have held him till then and not needed his money, which is probably pretty unlikely. So, yeah, if you are looking for cash or need to hide Comben, then he can go this week. But just be aware that he could make another 60k if he continues to get 2 or 3 more games. In the forwards for me, Zeeble, another average score. He had a pretty average score last week too. That's right, vice captained him, and that didn't turn out because he got copped a knock. It's one of the things I want to look at this week, but I have a feeling that ever since Hall's gone back, it's affected Zeeble's scoring because Hall is the person that they want taking the kicks out of defence. And now I know a lot of people hadn't actually watched Hall much and hopefully took my advice and jumped on. Just 16% ownership, I believe, in the top 1,000, which is crazy because such an obvious pick if you've been watching any footage of him. But he looked great this week. I wouldn't be surprised if he polled coaches' votes again for the 4th week out of the 4 times playing that role. Just looks really, really good in it. So yeah, I think that has kind of affected Zeeble negatively because he's not the only person taking kicks out of defence, and Hall does look to move it on and take on aggressive kicks, which means they're not doing as much chip to chip trying to free up stuff up the ground. But, you know, still both top 6 forwards. I would definitely jump on Hall if you don't have him. His, you know, price is starting to get away, so I would jump on now if you plan to. Impey, one of his down scores, but no issues with Impey. I still think he's a top 6 forward too. Warner continued to like putter away with these like 50s and 60s. He's definitely fallen away from the heights he was at the start of the year. He's bleeding cash a little bit, but not tons. I think his break-even's around his average up to like a 72 or 73, which means he is a rookie that can go, but if you need to hold him, that's absolutely fine as well. You'll just, you know, continue to leak maybe 5-10k a week from him. But if you need the scoring, then there's nothing wrong with holding him. I started Jones over Rowe this week, which is a little bit annoying. I thought Essendon being favourites and Freo having, you know, somewhat poor defence stocks with the injuries they've had meant that Jones was in for a big week. And you know what? For the first quarter, that was looking very good. He kicked 2 of the first 3 goals for Essendon, and then just didn't do nearly as much for the rest of the game. And Rowe, in a loss, which I predicted for West Coast as a small forward, somehow got another 80. So this was a little bit annoying that this rookie roulette didn't work. But yeah, Jones has been all right. I still think he has like a lowish break even in the 30s, which, I mean, he could fail to hit that this week. But Essendon play North this round. So I'm hoping that there is, you know, a big bag ready for Harry Jones, and that helps keep that cash moving. And then speaking of Jimmy Rowe, so back-to-back 80s, he's got a negative break even now. He should get to 300k, which is great. He's still someone that's really hard to trust as an on-field option, just given that he's 80-30, 80-30. And it seems like he's just one that people get wrong. I mean, I got it wrong this week. People get it wrong all the time. So he's really hard to trust as an on-field option. And then Poulter looked good again. Is that how you pronounce his name? Poulter. He looks, well, the mullet and like looking like he does meth wasn't particularly good, but the way he played football was, like played quite well again. Worried about them coming up against Port and him being an on-field option. Just can't see, you know, wingers getting a ton of the ball, but his role was good. He looked good. I think he's got pretty good job security from here on out, and his scoring should be okay. Should be in the low 60s, kind of, you know, high 50s range from here. Make us some good cash. And, you know, if he missed, I guess a little bit like RCD, like if you didn't get Poulter and you needed downgrade target, should you go for him? I don't think so. 174k. Yeah, I just probably wouldn't, but the DPP is handy on him, so. And then Waterman, yeah, disappointing that he didn't get a call-up this week. He's the like-for-like replacement for Stringer, but as I kind of mentioned last week, Guelphy's performance as the sub kind of got him the nod instead. Essendon actually copped another injury this week with Dev Smith, so another forward going down. And unfortunately, I think Waterman might get overlooked for Ambrose, who kicked like 6 goals in the seconds. And he is like the physical presence that will tackle and run really hard, which is probably the closest thing to a Dev Smith replacement we have. Even though they would like play quite differently as forwards, it's just the pressure that we lose with Smith. If they're looking to replace that, then Ambrose is probably a better substitution than Waterman. So I'm actually not sure when he's going to get his next game. But if he came back against North, then I'd want to jump him on field as well. Okay, so I guess the big things I wanted to talk about was trade-in targets this week. So I'm just going to go through, I guess, the primo that I like most on each line this week, as well as a cheaper option if you're desperate for them. I will caveat all these cheaper options with, I don't think they're top 6 forwards. I don't think they're top 6 or top 8 for their position, but they will get close. They might be like top, maybe not even close for one of them. But they are cheaper options that should score well if you're really desperate. And in a week where we don't have a good downgrade target and you might be looking at doing some creative trades, then maybe keep them in mind. So for defense, I think Ridley's the obvious one if you don't have him. At 481k, I think he's getting close to his bottom price. Should average 105 from here, or if not more. I think he does have that upside if Heppel gets injured, and given Heppel's injury history, maybe that's a risk you want to take. The cheaper option in defense would be Jath. So he has been, he does drop these 60s, which has helped keep his score down, and he had to come off for concussion testing, which artificially reduced his score on the weekend. He might actually have more money to lose, but I think at 403k this week, he is a good cheap defender option if you're looking for one. In the midfield, Steele is the mid that I'd be looking at this week at 569k. He should have hit his bottom price, with the one caveat being that they are playing the Dogs this week, who do suck up points against midfielders. So there is a chance that Steele does drop a poor score this week and gets lower, but after the Dogs this week, St Kilda's fixture opens up massively, and I think you want to be on him for that run. The cheaper option in the midfield would be Chera, who outside of a couple of poor games has basically had 120. So he actually looks a little bit like Brayshaw with his scoring, which is interesting. But I think he's going to be too far off the top 8, top 10 for him to be a real consideration. So I would avoid Chera. In the forward line, the obvious option is Dusty at 425k. I think one of the 20 or 30% that don't own him. So outside of Dusty, I already mentioned Hall. If you didn't get him, is a great option. I think, there's lots that don't have him. And the cheaper option would be Heaney at 342k, which is a very interesting one. He's down at that low score after a couple of injuries that have pulled him off, but he has shown the top 10 forward scoring potential in the past. I guess the worry is with his injuries, that does like present some risk. And Swans have the last bye, which is the difficult one for a lot of people. I guess not in the forward line as much, but yeah, that's worth weighing up as well. So then the other thing I guess I wanted to cover this week was who am I looking at? Oh, actually, so let's get my trades in. Actually, no. Before I do that, let's talk about Bose and Marshall. So the two big injuries this week, two premiums. So Bose is probably a trade anyway if he didn't get injured. And the reason why isn't because he's going to lose cash or anything like that. It's just I don't think he's a premium anymore. I think the Gold Coast are trying to figure things out. They've kind of realised that the first half of the year hasn't worked out very well for them. The personnel decisions they've made aren't particularly great. So stuff like Lukosius, he just isn't coming on as a winger probably as much as they would have liked. And so they're, once again, trying things like putting him back behind the ball. And you're seeing things like Bowes having to play a more accountable defender role. He's getting less of the kickouts. He's being used less as a distributor. And all of a sudden, he's not getting 30 cheap kicks a game, which means his Supercoach scoring has gone to the gutter. Now, this is something that could turn around as they figure things out. But I think the more likely scenario is that we continue to see a poor role from him that doesn't make him a premium. So I think he is absolutely a trade this week. And given that there are no great downgrade targets, this is a perfect week that you could kind of trade him as a sideways target. Normally, I say don't sideways trade premiums. I just don't think he's a premium anymore. For me personally, I am going to upgrade around him because I can. At least I think that's my plan at the moment. The risk, of course, is that I need 2 of these 3 rookies to play. Cozzy will definitely play, and with Hawks against Carlton, I think there's a pretty good chance he'll continue his form and put up like a 50 or 60 with upside. Highmore against the Dogs, I mean, the ball should be down their defense a lot. I guess it's a matter of whether or not he gets named, which isn't a guarantee or a certainty. And then Murphy, I'm hoping he's straight back into the side after his concussion. He did a couple of really brave things that I think the coaches would love and want to get him back down there. But the reality is Port's quite a tricky matchup. So not only am I hoping that one of Highmore and Murphy gets named, there's also scoring risk, I guess, in all 3 of these, which is the risk with holding Bose this week. But ideally, I want to trade him to someone like a Stewart. And Stewart's got money to lose, I think, after dropping some poor scores. So I kind of want to hold Bose a week. He won't lose any money, bring in the rookie cover, and then next week try and do something like Cozzy up to a Stewart. Ideal plan. And then, so I think if you can upgrade around Bose, or you want to wait a week so you can trade someone like Marshall, then holding's fine, but I think he's a trade. And then Marshall is absolutely a trade. And the reason why is I think, like, I mean, what score did he get to? Let's have a look. Yeah, I mean, he's going to drop big money. Oh, this is bad. So a couple of things here. The 3 to 4 week timeline on that injury is quite optimistic. I'm not sure if I talked about it on here or just Discord, but I did research into his injury, and I was actually shocked that he came back and played the next week, because from everything I'd read, there is no way that he should have been playing. He should have just been into surgery. So clearly they're just injecting him and hoping that he came good. And I guess this is why I was someone that was saying that, like, you could wait until buys and just kind of see how he goes. He's a risk to bring him in for, like, now because of injuries, and sure enough, the injury risk came to fruition. So I would absolutely be trading him out. He's going to lose mega money. He's got a terrible buy as is, and it's probably not until after his buy is going to come back. So once again, post then you could look at him as a cheap option if you still need an F6, or maybe even as like an F7 with the ruck swing. But yeah, get rid of him. He's going to be out for too long. And I think he's going to probably be quite slow or ease back in, given the type of injury he's got and his age. Like, they need to preserve his career. So yeah, I hope they kind of bring him back properly. So my trades for this week, I think I'll be getting rid of Powell, and I think I'll be getting rid of Warner. I kind of wanted to keep Warner, but I want to bring in a couple of really big names this week. So I want to bring in Steele, and I want to bring in Dustin Martin, which are 2 huge ins for me. 2 huge ins. And then next week, it still lets me do something like get Bose to Stewart, for example, after I drop some more cash, and then like do a rookie downgrade if one exists. So, you know, this is starting to then look a lot better. Just the 4 rookies left now. So RCD or McNeil, like somewhat comfortable fielding. It's probably just RCD. I don't really want to field either of these 2. And then this week is going to be probably Highmore. But then next week, like, yeah, he gets replaced back out. Stewart's are just like Cozzy or Highmore. It's probably Highmore because Cozzy probably goes next week. No, maybe not. But yeah, just the 1 rookie in defense, and then I still have a problem here where I need to get rid of one of these forwards down in the rookie space, because fielding Rowe and Poulter or Jones is just not great. I need to get rid of one of those. And then last thing I wanted to touch on just quickly was who are the premiums I'm looking to fill these spaces with, because I am starting to get a good idea. So for these last 2 spots, I think I want Stewart, and then I think I'm looking at Whitfield after his bye. He's still losing some money, still finding some match fitness, and I think he's going to work into it. After GWS bye, they face North, so that's hopefully a good score, and then he can continue from there. The M8, I'm not really sure about. I think it's going to come down to money. So obviously, like Lyons and Guthrie are great targets for that M8 spot. But I'm not sure whether or not I'm going to need to target someone that's buy friendly. So for example, Titch after their buy, or, you know, find a bargain option. And then finally the forwards. So this is still the hardest because Marshall's now gone. Butters ain't coming back in time. Maybe Danger comes back. So Zorko is the only one I know that I want in the forward 6. And then it comes back to, you know, do I want to look at one of Bailey Dale or Hind or Shai Bolton when he returns? And, like, I'm not sure. Like, maybe I want to do Zorko and then Danger, but it depends on how Danger's tracking when he comes back, how quickly he drops money, these types of things. But I think it's most likely I get in Zorko. I wait on the F6 and I wait on the M8 because I'm not really sure who it's going to be, and then I get in Stewart and Whitfield. But, you know, I guess the other thing I have to do is look at, with Steele coming in, which is the bad buy, and Dusty coming in, which is like the middle, like, okay buy. How does that kind of affect my buy structure, and can I kind of make up some ground during the buys? Because that's what I'll definitely be targeting. All right, so that's my team. That's the round review. Hopefully, I've given you some good advice, some premiums to go after, but I am interested in finding out what problems you're struggling with this week, what you're weighing up. Please hit me up in the comments below, and I will see you in the next one.